everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make a French toast casserole with some bacon, eggs, fried potatoes, and some carrot apple grape juice. So let's start by getting our French toast casserole ready. So last night we had some honey yeast rolls, homemade honey yeast rolls left from dinner, and we only ate about half of them. So I'm going to cube these up and put them in our French toast casserole. They're going to be delicious because that honey flavor is just going to be scrumptious. So I'm going to cube these. You could rip them apart if you want, but just like a simple kind of cube will work perfect for this because we'll want them to kind of suck up all of our little custard we're going to make for it for our casserole. And these were my, we had these with dinner last night. They're like a quick yeast roll, which we covered with a nice honey butter. So they are perfect for making something sweet. There we go. And a lot of times I always use like a brioche bun or roll for casserole or for French toast. And so this is very similar to that. And it's going to be amazing. And it's just a great way to reuse leftovers, especially with French toast. Leftover or older bread typically tastes best for it because it soaks up that kind of egg custard mixture really well. Here we go. I'm going to spread them all out. I got one more. And then take some of these crumbs and we'll just pour the crumbs in there as well. Okay. Just going to spread them out so we don't have any big gaps anywhere. And now let's make our little custard base for it. So we're going to start off with about 6 eggs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know why I said 5. That's 4. 5. I'm doing 6. So 4, and I got 2 split ones in there. Yes, I got 6. That's what I did. I don't know why. I first thought I was doing 4, and then I was like, no, I'm doing 6. So we're going to give them a mix. Because you want your custard base to be nice and eggy. And since we have a lot of bread here, 6 is good. We're going to give it a good mix. And then we are going to have a lot of bread here. 6 is good. We're going to give it a good mix. And then we are going to add about 1/3 cup of heavy cream and 1/3 cup of milk. So I'm just going to eyeball it here. Give that a nice mix. And then we're going to add 1/3 cup of whole milk. You could use half and half for both and add about 2/3 cup of half and half. But I only had whole or heavy cream and whole milk today. There we go. And you want it to be kind of a rich, thick, eggy mixture. It's going to be your custard base. And then we're going to add some cinnamon and vanilla and a pinch of sugar to this. Give it a little bit of a sweetness. Just want to make sure all of those eggs are broken up because you don't want any like long stringy bits of the whites. We're going to add about 1 tablespoon of vanilla, which is about, for me, I found it's like 3 capfuls make about 1 tablespoon. This is going to give it a lovely flavor. Give that a nice mix. And then we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. Or this nice mix. Now, cinnamon loves to sit at the top of your mixture, so just make sure you mix it really well, so it's just not all floating on the top, because when you pour it over, then that will just like kind of sit in one spot. Scrape around the sides here. Give it a nice mixture because I do want that to get mixed around as well as possible. And then let me grab my sugar over here. You need just about a third cup of sugar. You don't need a whole bunch because that's about a sixth. Because you're going to be covering your French toast casserole with a little bit of syrup, and that's where most of the sugar comes in. But I do like to have a little bit in it, so it has a nice sweetness to it. So just about a third cup of sugar. You don't need, again, a lot because syrup is going to be your primary sweetener when you eat it. So now we have this nice thick custard base, and we're going to pour this over our bread. And if you don't have like rolls at home, you can always use like regular bread, and that works well too. There we go. I will say French toast works better with softer breads versus ones that have like a really chewy crust. We're going to just pour it over. You want to make sure it all gets covered with this delicious cinnamon and vanilla custard. There we go. And then you're just going to go in there with your hands and just kind of give everything a nice little toss. Let it soak up. I always kind of like to flip the bottoms to the tops up. That way everything kind of gets into the nice custard mix. There we go. And then you're just going to kind of pat it down. And we're going to be ready to pop this in our oven. So I'm going to give my hands a quick rinse and we'll slide this in. Okay, I do have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. And so this will bake for about 15, 20 minutes, just, depending on some ovens bake hotter than others. So I'm going to pop it in there and I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. Now, if you were to do it in a smaller pan and you layered it thicker, it would take longer. Mine's about like 1.5 inches thick, so it won't take as long as if you were to put it in a smaller pan and with higher. Let's get to making the rest of our breakfast. Let's get our bacon going because we're going to have bacon and sausage because those are all my kids' favorite, and then we're going to cook our fried potatoes in a little bit of bacon grease, and same with our eggies. So we've got a whole pound of bacon here.
You got some comments that you seem to cook a lot.
I do cook a lot. I try to give my kids home cooked meals as much as possible. So I typically cook like 2 main meals a day for the family. While my kids are at school, so then they'll eat, lunch at school, but I pack them lunches. But for the rest of us at home, I'll cook them lunches. So it's a smaller crew. And then for the rest of us for dinner. It's cheaper. It's more enjoyable because going out to a restaurant with an 18-month-old and a 4-year-old is not the most enjoyable. Give my hands a quick rinse. My older 3, they're great at restaurants, but with Jack and Teddy, you never know what you're going to get. You never know if you're going to get Happy Jack or Cranky Jack or Screechy Jack. So we do that. I mean, we do also order out occasionally, like we had Chinese this week because our schedule was busy. But, kids got to eat like 3 meals a day plus snacks. So, when you're just constantly trying to make it to where they have home-cooked meals or made snacks, you do cook. But it's typically just 2 meals. I always have 1 meal where they have to fend for themselves, where they have to get all, make either their breakfast or their lunch themselves, kind of teach them some skills. And then I'll make 2 good meals for them.
You have a question about the French toast casserole? Do you ever have it sit overnight?
You can have it sit overnight, but I find if you do, it tends to get a bit more smushy. So it's more of a mushier casserole, which I know lots of people like, but I prefer doing the egg mixture on it right away and then baking it because it gives it a kind of a firmer French toast thing to it versus, some of those, if you have like at restaurants, we can have that like brioche French toast, and it's just more of a pudding. And I like a little bit more of my bread to kind of stand out. But you definitely can in it. Um, what I would do is if you are going to do it overnight, make sure your bread is like stale. Stale bread works well for overnight because it won't get as soggy. This bread we used was rolls we baked up last night. So if you turned to overnight, those would probably turn straight to mush. We're going to cube up our potatoes here. I don't know why I said that weird. I'm doing nice little small bits because they're going to be like, just the good old fashioned home style hash browns. And we're going to fry these in our bacon grease when we're done. We're just doing a crazy fry on our bacon because
you have a question. Nice. Do you create a weekly menu and shopping list, or you just stock up and cook on the fly?
I am a cook on the fly type of girl. I buy lots of different groceries and then I decide what we're making every day based on how I feel. So sometimes I have no idea what we're having for dinner until like 30 minutes before, and I'm like, what should we have? I will say, we are a large family. I cook for about 9 people every single day, and I have 4 full-size fridges and a big pantry. So I do feel like I have my own mini grocery store every time. So I go through and decide what we're cooking based on that. And I know it's ridiculous that I have 4 fridges, but I didn't just go out and buy 4 fridges. It was when we moved into our house, we brought a fridge, and then the fridge that was in this house was like so old. It was like the one where the fridge was on the bottom, freezer's on the top. I mean, it's still kicking, but it was from like the early 90s. And we replaced all of our appliances to have like stainless steel at the time. So it was still working. So we popped that in the garage with our other fridge. So we had 2 out there. And then we did a reno like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, for our whole kitchen. And our newer fridge that was only a couple years old, the ice maker broke, and it was going to be over $1,000 to fix the ice maker on it. And I was like, I can buy a new fridge for that. So then we moved that fridge out into the garage. Now we have 3 fridges out into the garage and then 1 in our thing. But with a big family, they do get used. We have one is like our drink fridge, one is our protein fridge, and the other one is like our produce fridge. So they have, they're divided up and have purposes, but they're always full. Let's give our bacon a little stir here. I'm going to turn it down to about a 5 now that it's starting to sweat out because I don't want my bacon to get burned. So I'll heat it up high, and then once I start to get the fat sweating out, we'll turn it down so it can crisp up nicely in that bacon. There we go. And we've got our potatoes ready. We'll pop these in the grease once our bacon is cooking. But while we're doing that, let's make our juice today. So this is my kids' favorite juice, and it's so simple. It's just apples, carrots, and grapes. So it's like a carrot grape apple juice. I don't know. You don't really taste the carrots in it, so don't be like off put by it, but it's a great way for them to get some more veggies in them. And I love this recipe because with grapes, when grapes get past their firmness and then nobody wants to eat them because they're a bit more squishy? Well, that is a great way to use them because they still taste great. They just don't have the firmness that the kids like. So we'll make that. It's a good way to use up fruit that is past their texture prime but still has good flavor. Juicing is. So we're going to turn this on and we're going to juice these guys up. Let's see. And you don't even need to do much prep. Pop these in here. Voila. That's how simple it is to just juice up those carrots. And we'll throw in our apples. You see it just keeps coming. Gorgeous. Grapes are the easiest ones. I want to make sure I don't overflow my juice compartment here. Voila. And perfect to the top. Say. But this one, I will say the carrot or the apple and the grape really stand out. That carrot is very mild and it's delicious. And I will say it is a great way for me to get my kids to get some carrot in them. But it is beautiful. I made it perfect to the top here. Grab a paper towel. But I just love fresh juice, especially in the like with a breakfast and a brunch in the summer, but it's going to be scrumptious. Let's get these turned here.
A couple questions. Is it okay to leave the seeds in it when you use it? And what's the name of the juicer?
Yes, you can definitely leave the seeds in it. You can leave the peels on if you want to. Like when I do a pineapple, I don't even peel off the outside. It does it well. It has a fine mesh strainer that separates everything. And this one, I believe it's a Breville, but yes, Breville. I've had this thing forever. Actually, it's not even mine. I stole it from my mom's house. I always like to steal her fancy thing because they just sit there and collect dust, and I use them here. But I think she got that when I was in high school, and I'm 37 now, so it's like 20 years old, but it's still kicking. So, it works great. Okay, let's get our bacon flipped here. And we'll turn it up just a smidge, and let's we're going to prep our green onions and our parsley for our potatoes. Hopefully bacon will crisp up nicely. I'm just going to cut off the very bottoms. The white ones are still good to use in this because they'll get a little bit of saute time, so they won't be quite as astringent.
Question: any dinner ideas yet for tonight?
Oh, this is not the question of the day. You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I think it might use chicken because I do have chicken. Ooh, but I have lamb. I think I might do lamb tonight. Do like a Greek lamb with some like naan. I think that sounds good. So maybe that's what it is. But I'm not 100% sure. Don't hold me to that. Ooh, and I have cauliflower, so I might do some curried cauliflower. Okay, see, I'm already planning through it. I've got a plan. So I think I'm gonna do lamb. I have this lamb roast, like a leg of lamb, and you can cube it up and you saute it in a pan, and it's just delicious. It's a way you don't have to think of lamb as just as a roast. You can cube it and saute it, or put it on like a kebab. But I think I'm gonna do that because it's so tender. It will be delicious. We're gonna mince up some parsley here. This is gonna be about probably a 4th cup of parsley. And there we go. Let's turn our bacon here. Get it flipped and going. Okay, I'm going to steal a little bit of my bacon grease. We're going to add it in here to this pan so we can get our potatoes cooking. And we're going to save some of our bacon grease for our eggs too. I'm just going to put in about a tablespoon. Let me spread my bacon out. There we go. And I'm going to turn my skillet on, and then I always like, there we go. I knew I had some soft butter out. A little bit of butter in with it because I think it just makes the potatoes even more delicious. Let it melt. We can start adding in our potatoes. I'm going to wait to add in my spices because or my like green onions and my parsley, because I want the potatoes to get a nice little crisp up on them first. Okay. Let's get these all in there. And turn.
I get a comment that someone's never seen bacon cooked that way.
Oh yes, this is the way I call it. It's my crazy fry. So I just put the whole pack in there and I just turn it every so often to do it. I think like my family personally likes this better than in the oven because it makes it more of a crispy versus one that like dissolves in your mouth. I find that oven bacon is either chewy or because it sits in it fat, it just like dissolves. Pan fried bacon, I love it. It's just delicious. It's what we call our crazy fry. It's my favorite way to make it. But again, if you're making a huge amount of bacon, the oven is the best way because it's hard to make a large amount. But 1 pound in the pan and you just fry it up in its own grease. You don't want your temperature too high or you'll burn it, but it cooks up lovely. I'm going to turn my skillet on here. Let me grab a lid. Just going to pop it over here, help soften up those potatoes. And turn. And I just kind of turn my bacon periodically so it kind of crisps up nicely. And yes, they won't be perfect strips. We always call them the kind of like little bacon clusters when you're done with it. But so good. Gives you that like soft crunch on them. There we go. And then you can reserve the bacon grease to cook the eggs in, the potatoes. I'll cook my sausage in these in the bacon grease as well. It makes them even better. So, you know, bacon's just delicious. I don't know how you could go wrong. Let me flip this guy. Plus, I find like you do the bacon in the oven and you lay if you lay the aluminum foil out, I still have the grease go under it and I have like a big pan that I have to scrub up hard. Okay, let's get that. Oops, our French toast casserole is beeping at us. Let's go get that checked out. We'll see if it's ready. Most of the time it should be ready in about 15 minutes. Let's pull this out. It looks pretty done to me. Beautiful. Let's see. I'm going to give it a touch. Yep, nice and firm. So when I pull it out of the oven, you don't want it to be mushy. You want everything to firm up. That means the eggs have cooked all the way through. So I always just give it a little touch, a little quick touch. And then I know it's done. Again, thicker. If you make it thicker, it's going to take much longer to cook. But this will be perfect. And what you do is it's almost just like French toast, but you'll just use your spatula, cut a square of it, and then you can dress it with your syrup or whatever you want to put on top, and it will be just perfect. It's easier than trying to soak each slice of bread and frying it up on a skillet, which I do. You know, they're different, but it's the same. This is easier for a crowd. Okay, and I feel like I'm feeding a crowd every single day. Let me grab a plate because this bacon is almost crisped up. And paper towels. You always want to transfer your bacon onto paper towels, soak up that extra grease because that will give you a nice crispy bacon. If it sits in its own grease, that's when it will be more of a mushy bacon and will kind of dissolve a little. There we go. So some of these guys looks like they're just about ready. It's also nice as you can kind of take out the bacon that's ready when it's in things so that none gets burned. There we go. Just a smidge. Now spatula over here. We're going to do a flip. Starting to get a nice kind of crispy edge on them. And the trick with frying up your potatoes for hash browns is to make sure you don't stir them too often because you want them to get crispy edges. And if you're constantly stirring them, they won't crisp up nicely. There we go. And then I'm going to smush them all out again. Like this. Now you don't have to cook them with a lid on, but I find the lid helps them cook faster. So if you want them done sooner, it will soften them up. And then at the very end, you just take off that lid and allow it to crisp up in there because when the lid is on, it won't get as crispy. Okay, look at our beautiful bacon. I'm going to spread it out so it can soak up that extra grease. And then we are going to have my oil turned off or my bacon turned off. Turn it off first and then let the sausage cook for a minute before you turn it on. That way they don't sizzle and pop. And these are already like the pre-cooked sausages. You could do the raw sausages as well, but these are just crisp them up and make them even tastier. If they want to come out. There we go. That should be enough. My family is divided. We've got bacon lovers and we've got sausage lovers. We got the lovers of them all. I love them both, but I have Teddy and Jack are straight up sausage, and Torrin is sausage too. So my boys, my little, are all sausage. My girls are all bacon, and then my husband and I, we just love them both. But it is funny how they have very strong opinions about them. Break these two apart. We're gonna let those kind of crisp up, and now you see you get even more brown, crispy edges on them. The potatoes are starting to go translucent, which means they're starting to get soft and tender, which will give you that nice, hash brown crispiness to them. Okay. Pop this on. Let's go over. We've got our green onions and our parsley here. I'm going to go over and get it to a really fine mince because you don't want to have a huge green onion here. You could also add sweet peppers to this. If you want to add a little spice, you could add some Cajun spices. We're going to season it up with just some garlic salt. And this is just like seasoning blend, but it's the same as like Mrs. Dash's seasoning blend. It just has a lot of mixture of spices, but a little bit of that adds just a great flavor. But don't add them to your potatoes until the very end. Otherwise, they will burn to the bottom of your skillet, and then you'll have burnt bits, which won't taste as good. You can add fresh herbs in sooner, but the dry herbs, wait. Let's toss these sausages real quick, and now I'm going to turn them on now that their sizzles are down. But there we go. You see how they're getting a nice little crust on them? There we go. Let's see if I can break these two. They're like stuck together. There we go. And I'm going to turn it on low. Don't have them on too high or you'll burn the outside of your sausages. We're going to add in our parsley and green onions. There we go. We'll mix these up. You can see we're getting more and more beautiful crispy edges here. Okay. We're going to get our sausages out in just a second, and then we're going to cook up our eggs, and then breakfast will be served. And I will say the nice thing about it is bacon, you cook that up first, and it will stay like warm things. Bacon's one of those things that it's okay if it's not hot. It's still good when it's like the crispy, but I always got to cook my bacon first so I have the grease for everything. And then that's still hot. The casserole still stays nice and hot. I have it in this is a ceramic bake dish, so it will keep it nice and warm and hot while we're doing all of our other stuff. which is nice.
Oh, you have a question? What herbs went on the potatoes?
So I put, that was just minced up parsley and green onions. So very more mild ones. The onions will just play lovely with the fried potatoes. And then parsley has just a nice pop of color and a freshness to it, which will be scrumptious. And we'll do our eggs in just a second. We're going to do a scramble in our eggs once our sausages are crisp up. They need about 1 more minute. Let's do our seasonings on our potatoes since they are almost done. So we're going to add about, let me do the thing, like a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of our Mrs. Dash's. So just we're going to sprinkle it right over the top. And then we're going to add about a teaspoon and a half of garlic salt. So just sprinkle it right over the top. And then we're going to give it a nice flip and stir. Beautiful. And now our potatoes are almost done here. I'm going to turn them down to a nice low around a 3, and they'll do their last little fry up. But you see how we have just so many lovely crispy edges on them? And then our lid helps really tenderize them up faster than if you were to leave the lid off. So this allows them to cook a little bit faster while still remaining that crispy edge. And you do want to do the last kind of final bit with the lid off so that you're not trapping in all of that steam, so you can really get a nice crispy edge on your potatoes. Let's get our eggs done, which will take us no time. I'm gonna add our sausages over here. They've got a nice kind of crispy edges on them, which makes them delicious. And now I'm not going to fry or cook my eggs in all of this grease. That would be a bit much. So we'll take this bowl, and what I like to do to remove some of the grease, because you don't want to pour it down your drain, just take a paper towel in here. This will help get rid of some of those burnt bits too. We're just going to kind of pull up just a smidge of it, pour it around, grab some of those bits, and perfect. So now we have a good amount for our eggs. You don't need a whole lot on there. And what I do, again, like I did with the potatoes, a mixture of bacon grease and butter. It'll be delicious. So we're going to let our butter melt up. You don't even need very much. I have just a teaspoon here. But I think it just marries well with the bacon grease. And you can see that white foam there. That's the milk solids in the butter, like crisping up, and it'll be delicious. And we're going to do a quick fry on here. So right now I have my skillet turned off because we're going to pop all of them in, a quick scramble, and then I'll scramble them with my spatula. But you don't want it on too hot or they'll cook up before you get a chance to scramble them. And this is just a little bit easier than trying to, you're scrambling them in a bowl and then pouring them out. You don't need to make all those dishes. Start our scramble around. And you can see those little crispy bacon bits in there. Gives a lovely flavor to our eggs. Let me pop my yolks. And then you can just scramble them in here. Now, if you like fluffier eggs, you can add about up to a tablespoon of milk or water to it, but you'd want to whip it before you add it in. That will give you a really fluffy egg. If you like a richer, denser egg, add an extra yolk, and that will give you a very, very lush, dense scrambled eggs. You know, it's just those preferences. I typically keep mine just the way it is. But like if I'm making scrambled eggs for my mom, I will do, I'll add an extra yolk because she really likes that. Okay. Now I'm going to turn on my skillet. You see how much it just cooked from residual heat, which is perfect because I've got a nice scramble on it. And now I have it on just a medium to kind of cook it the rest of the way for it. And then I see a bacon thief. Always stealing the bacon. It's never stealing the broccoli. Let's get these tossed. We're going to be ready to serve up in just a bit. Look at these are just, oh, there's nothing about homemade hash browns. They're just so good. We'll get our eggs scrambled here. And we will be able to serve up brunch. A brunchy lunch. There we go. So we'll get a plate out here. Yeah, and let me get a glass for our juice. Put a little bit of ice in it because I love really cold juice. Okay, let's check my eggs now because I think they're ready. Now the trick is if you have to make eggs for a group of people and you're not ready to serve them, cook them until they're just a smidge underdone and the residual heat from your pan will cook them all the way. That way you don't end up with stiff, broken eggs that are like firmed up because they've been overcooked. So I always just do just a smidge, and then by the time you serve them up, they'll firm up the rest of the way. Okay, let's serve up some breakfast. Let me get my shovel here. What shall we start with? Let's start with our casserole. So this is our French toast casserole. So I'm just going to kind of do a nice little thing and we'll scoop it out. We'll add it on here and then we'll drizzle it with syrup and it'll be just delicious. We've got our bacon, our sausages, as I always call them for our kids, and we'll have our eggs, a little bit more, and of course, let's not forget the home fried skillet potatoes and our delicious homemade carrot apple grape juice, and it is fantastic. So this is again our brunch today. We've got our French toast casserole made with cinnamon, butter, cream, eggs, and a rich custard sauce with our leftover honey rolls, bacon, sausage, our scrambled eggs, and our fried potatoes, and of course our carrot grape apple juice for our refreshment. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what I'm making for my family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. We do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate your recipes, our recipes at home, you could just find that video, rewatch it, and then cook along with me again. And we also offer a membership for those who want to join us, where we have some just extra content, exclusive videos, some things more about our family, extra recipe cards, and all that jazz. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget